need your help and your brain power on this one. So, the Anunnaki we know are 8 to 10 foot tall, and researchers believe the Anunnaki have this elongated skull, which we know is not a human skull. It has various different features that cannot be created by headboarding or by deformities. These are actually genuinely things that we should never have or haven't got. So basically, the Anunnaki, we believe, had the elongated skulls. However, there's a passage in one of the tablets for the Lost Book of Enki where it says that when they first created Adam, the skin on his manhood was there compared to theirs. This is where you get circumcision from. So they actually said in their tablets, let's leave that skin so we can tell the difference between them and us, which I found interesting. Now, obviously, the difference between them and us would be a massive skull, elongated skull. So I'm of the conclusion that they possibly didn't have an elongated skull now. They probably had a normal skull, which makes sense with the text when they said leave the skin so we can tell the difference. Now, we know that in history you've got people like, this is the sister of Tutankhamun, the mum and dad had elongated skulls, and this is proven, and even Tutankhamun had an elongated skull. So we know that the Anunnaki created humans using MEs, which I've mentioned before in other videos, which is possibly mitochondrial extract, but basically they were choosing the characteristics for leaders, for pharaohs, for kings, and all sorts of things, which they do talk about. So I'm now of the opinion, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are then, that possibly the MEs, the creations that's been created from the ME, which is DNA basically, ended up creating these elongated skulls, as opposed to the Anunnaki with elongated skulls. I know I'm probably the only researcher that's put all this sort of together, so I'm just wondering on your thoughts on it, because it does come across that the sort of the demigods or the kings of the area do have these elongated skulls. So what's your thoughts? Please let me know. The Sphinx is a lot older than you think, but not as old as some researchers say. Now, some researchers say this is prior to the flood, which would have been 10,000 years plus ago, and they say this is also older than the pyramids. But the problem with some of these researchers is they forget that the pyramids had a covering over it, so any weathering would have took that off first and then started to work the weathering work on the inner stones, whereas the Sphinx didn't have an outer covering, so the weathering attacked that first, so that's why it looks older. But anyway, so no, it was built after the floods. The ancient texts say that, which makes sense if you read the ancient texts. Now, the Great Flood was actually caused by Nibiru coming round, breaking off an ice shelf, causing tsunami. Now, Nibiru's been round twice more since, so I'm saying that there could have been a second mini flood, bearing in mind the Nile's not too far from it, which could have caused the weathering that they believe is old. Finally, after 2 regions were set up and flourishing successfully by the Enki's lot and Enlil's lot, and now it was Ayana's turn, and her land didn't do so well, and that's because she totally neglected it. She had now found a new love, but she still craved after Dumuzi, who we know passed. Now, this new guy, Banda, she somehow projected that she thought he was Dumuzi. Anyway, he died. Banda died, but he didn't actually die. He nearly died, and when he was came back to life, Ayana believed that it was her that created life and can bring back people. So at that point, she decided to call herself a goddess, even though technically she wasn't, and that's when the trouble started. I'll tell you more in the next video. Have you heard of Gilgamesh or the Epic of Gilgamesh? Well, I'm going to tell you what actually happened with Gilgamesh. He was an Anunnaki, and I'm going to do this over the next couple of videos. And he's important because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the stone writing of these mythological creatures that are not mythological because they're actually written in stone as to what they are. So his story is very important. So when he became of age, he said to his mum, "Mum, am I going to die?" Because he could see all these humans dying, because obviously his lineage was Anunnaki and therefore he lived a lot longer. So he said to his mum, "Mum, am I going to die like these?" She said, "Well, here you will. If you go back to Nibiru, you'll be okay." So his mum asked one of the main people there that deals with the spaceport, can he go back to Nibiru? And she kept asking day after day after day. And I'll tell you what happened in the next video. Gilgamesh's mum finally persuaded Utu to allow Gilgamesh to go to the spaceport to go up to Nibiru to have a longer life. Now, Ninsharog, who is Enki's sister and also part of the team that created humans, said for his arduous journey she will create him a companion of some description. So in the stone tablets it actually says that she created enkidu, not from a womb and without blood. And enkidu was some sort of, we don't know. But the pair of them then headed off on their long arduous journey to the spaceport, and along the way they came across a cedar forest, and in that cedar forest was a fire-breathing monster as described in the ancient text. Now, they managed to confuse it and break it to pieces, which makes me think it was guarding something and it wasn't actually a creature. It was probably Enki's technology, and I'll tell you why after this video.